Have you ever stopped to wonder why pink is so strongly associated with girls? Today, it feels so natural and obvious that many people assume girls are simply born loving pink. The color is everywhere, on baby clothes, toys, school supplies, movies, and advertisements, so much so that it feels timeless and unquestionable. But the truth is far more surprising. The idea that pink is a girl's color is not ancient, not biological, and not universal. In fact, it is a relatively recent cultural invention shaped by history, marketing, psychology, and powerful social influence. Understanding why girls love pink means looking beyond personal preference and unpacking how societies assign meaning to colors, how those meanings are reinforced over time, and how they quietly shape what feels normal, desirable, and even natural to us. If we go back just over 100 years, the modern idea of pink as a feminine color simply did not exist. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, there were no strict or universally accepted rules linking color to gender. Babies of all sexes were commonly dressed in white, largely for practical reasons. White fabric could be easily cleaned and bleached, which mattered far more to parents than aesthetic choices. When colors did begin to appear in children's clothing, pink and blue were used inconsistently. In fact, several magazines, parenting guides, and department stores in the early 1900s recommended pink for boys and blue for girls. Pink was seen as a lighter version of red, a color associated with strength, vitality, and assertiveness, while blue was considered calm, delicate, and refined. These associations were almost the reverse of what we believe today, and they highlight just how flexible and socially constructed color meanings really are. This fluid approach to color began to change around the mid-20th century. By the 1940s and 1950s, fashion trends, manufacturers, and retailers started standardizing gendered color codes. Pink slowly became associated with femininity, softness, romance, and domesticity, while blue became associated with masculinity, strength, and stability. This shift was not driven by new scientific discoveries or biological research. Instead, it was driven by consumer culture. As mass production expanded and advertising became more sophisticated, companies realized that assigning specific colors to genders made products easier to market and sell. Gendered clothing, toys, and accessories encouraged parents to buy more items rather than reuse them across children, reinforcing these color norms with every purchase and embedding them deeper into everyday life. As these marketing strategies became more widespread, pink became deeply embedded in popular culture. Movies, cartoons, children's books, and advertisements consistently portrayed girls surrounded by pink. Dolls wore pink dresses, princesses lived in pink castles, bedrooms were painted pink, and school supplies for girls were wrapped in pink packaging. Over time, this repetition created familiarity, and familiarity slowly turned into preference. When children repeatedly see something presented as for them, they are more likely to accept it, internalize it, and eventually embrace it as part of their identity. One specific historical moment played a particularly important role in accelerating and solidifying this shift: the rise of First Lady Mamie Eisenhower in the early 1950s. In 1953, when Dwight D. Eisenhower was inaugurated as President of the United States, the nation's attention turned not only to politics, but also to style, optimism, and post-war prosperity. Mamie Eisenhower became a fashion icon almost overnight. For the inaugural balls celebrating her husband's presidency, she wore a soft, pale pink silk gown designed by Nettie Rosenstein, intricately embroidered with more than 2,000 pink rhinestones. The dress shimmered under the lights and immediately captured public attention. Newspapers, magazines, and photographers widely circulated images of Mamie in the gown, and because she had kept details of the dress secret until just before the event, anticipation and excitement were unusually high. The impact of that gown went far beyond a single evening. The shade she wore became popularly known as Mamie Pink, and it quickly spread into mainstream fashion and home design. Pink dresses, pink accessories, pink kitchen appliances, pink bathrooms, and pink household decor flooded the market. Mamie's fondness for pink was so well known that parts of the White House were informally referred to by journalists as the Pink Palace. In a post-World War II society that was encouraging women to return to domestic roles after years of working in factories and offices, pink came to symbolize idealized femininity, elegance, warmth, and domestic grace. Retailers and manufacturers seized on this symbolism, marketing pink as the color of womanhood and, by extension, girlhood. This moment helped bridge earlier, looser color associations into a more rigid and standardized norm, one that would later be applied heavily to children's clothing and toys. Mamie Eisenhower did not single-handedly invent pink femininity, but her influence helped legitimize and popularize it on a massive cultural scale. This historical moment helps explain why the idea that girls love pink feels so natural today. Yet when we turn to scientific research, a different picture emerges. Studies consistently show that children are not born with gender-specific color preferences. Very young infants show no meaningful difference in how they respond to pink compared to other colors. Before the age of 2, most children show little interest in gendered colors at all. It is only after children begin to understand gender categories, learning what it means to be a boy or a girl in their society, that preferences start to diverge. Around age 2 to 3, girls begin choosing pink more often, while boys begin actively avoiding it. This timing is crucial because it aligns closely with the period when children become highly sensitive to social cues, expectations, and approval. Some evolutionary theories suggest there may be a slight biological influence, proposing that women might be more drawn to reddish hues because early human females were responsible for gathering ripe fruits, which often appear red or pink. While this idea is intriguing, scientific evidence supporting it remains limited and inconsistent. What research does clearly show is that culture plays a dominant role. Cross-cultural studies reveal that in societies with limited exposure to Western media, advertising, and consumer culture, children do not show the same pink for girls preference seen in industrialized societies. When pink is not constantly labeled as feminine, girls are no more likely than boys to prefer it. Marketing continues to play a massive role in reinforcing these preferences. By the late 20th century, gender-specific branding had become the norm. Toy aisles were divided by color, clothing sections were clearly separated by gender, and entire product lines were designed around pink aesthetics for girls. This approach proved extremely profitable. When products are gendered, families are less likely to share items between siblings of different genders, which increases consumption. Pink was no longer just a color, it became a business strategy. Media further strengthened this association. Television shows, animated films, and children's entertainment consistently portrayed female characters surrounded by pink. From fairy tales to modern cartoons, pink symbolized sweetness, kindness, beauty, and emotional warmth. These symbolic meanings became internalized at a young age. Over time, liking pink was no longer just about visual appeal. It became a way for girls to express femininity, belonging, and social acceptance. Peer influence also plays a powerful role. Children are highly sensitive to what their peers approve of or reject. When a child notices that most girls like pink, choosing pink becomes a way to fit in. At the same time, boys often avoid pink not because they inherently dislike the color, but because they learn that it is socially discouraged for them. These dynamics reinforce themselves across classrooms, playgrounds, and social groups, making learned preferences feel natural and self-evident. Beyond social meaning, pink also carries emotional associations. Psychologically, pink is often described as warm, calming, and comforting. It is associated with affection, care, and gentleness. These emotional qualities can make the color appealing to many people, not just girls. However, the reason these emotions are linked to pink in the first place is largely cultural. Over decades, society has taught us what pink is supposed to represent, and our emotional responses have followed that teaching. It is also important to acknowledge that not all girls love pink. Many girls prefer other colors, such as blue, green, black, or red, and these preferences are just as valid. As society becomes more aware of how gender norms are constructed, some of these rigid color associations are slowly weakening. Pink is increasingly being reclaimed as a color for everyone, not just girls, and its meaning continues to evolve. So when we ask why girls love pink, The answer is not simple or singular. It is not just biology, and it is not just personal taste. It is the result of history, culture, marketing, psychology, social learning, and influential moments, like Mamie Eisenhower's iconic pink gown, that helped shape how entire generations came to see color and gender. Pink became feminine not because it had to, but because society decided it was. And once that decision was repeated often enough, it began to feel like truth. The next time you see pink labeled as a girl's color, it is worth remembering that this idea is less than a century old. Preferences are powerful, but they are also shaped. And understanding where they come from gives us the freedom to question, reinterpret, and redefine them for ourselves.